When we talk to the staff about what makes us different, why do you love working here? Why do you feel connected here? And they would talk about two things, the community and family, and that in some instances we have several generations of families working here. We have Annette Overmeyer, who's had most of her family working here at one point or another, I think. And when I talk to people about what excites you, they talk about the fact that they know the people that they take care of, that they're most likely their community members, their neighbors, their family members. And so that's kind of how we came to one of our core competencies of family caring for family. Mary Miller Hayes, who she actually started the hospital from a philanthropic point of view to memorialize her mother. And so really was committed to having the hospital built and really founding the hospital in this area. So we're committed to the hospital staying here as a pillar of the community so that we can continue to care for our family, friends, and neighbors.
What Mary Miller Hayes was able to do with $50,000 pledge and the way the community stepped up, the community continues to do that here.
Back in 1919, my mom, Nanette Hyman at the time, was born in the hospital. She was the 19th baby born here. And she also died here in 1980. And between that time, she was very connected to the hospital. She was the auxiliary president for many years. She was a volunteer here in the physical therapy department for, I think, over 40 years.
I do have a story. It's really kind of funny. And it's more of a memory that I have, but so I was the last child, born in my family, but I remember my mother was in the hospital after I was born. I bet I was about 3 or 4 years old. And what I remember is standing outside over there, and one of my older siblings had me in their arms, and my mother was at the window waving, because back in those days you couldn't bring children into the hospital. And my mother was at a window waving to me because I missed my mom. And so my older sister brought me over, and there were a lot of us, so we were all standing out there. I'm back out over by where the helipad is, and we were waving up at my mom, who was up in the hospital. So I do remember that.
One of my memories is when I was probably in 7th grade, my mom was a patient here. It was nothing major. But my mom was a patient. I was not allowed to visit in those days because of the ages of visitors. So remember, she was on the 2nd floor, and I climbed up the brick wall on the outside of the hospital and went in through the window and visited her.
We're never going to be the Mayo Clinic. We're not going to do heart transplants in Fremont, Ohio. We're not going to do those things, but we really have a goal here that we want to be the very, very best primary care facility we can be, so that if I need my tonsils out, or I need my hip replaced, or I've got an illness in the middle of the night, this is where I need to be.
Randy says this a lot, Randy Oster, when he talks to different groups in different communities. He says, imagine Fremont, Ohio without the hospital. What would that look like? So think about the people having babies, or the people getting their knee replaced, or the people who need emergency care. If they had to travel probably at least 15 minutes, 20 minutes, up to an hour in any direction. He says, think about it from just the impact on the patients and the families who need care, but then also think about it and the impact on the community. There's 400 people at the hospital proper. When you add in the doctor's offices and the services, the ancillary services, you're more like 600 people who are attached to this business here. And so it's an important part of the fabric of Fremont, not only from what it brings economically to the community, but also to the health and well-being of the community.